giant of Jeopardy. This is another amazing fact. He and I have something in common. The game show host of Jeopardy's name is Alex Trebek. I met Alex Trebek because I was asked to be on a game show called Classic Concentration. I won a whopping $5,000. Use your math skills and figure out. He won about $2.5 million on Jeopardy. A little more than I won. Okay, let us give this very special guest, Mr. Ken Jennings, a big round of applause.
I'm very excited to be with you today. I'm very excited not to be the real Kobe Bryant. You never really get injured. You don't get a lot of hamstring injuries on Jeopardy. It's pretty safe. Thanks for all. I'm always excited to be in elementary school and to see your happy, smiling faces. I bet you guys are excited too, because you got out of class for this. Woo! You're welcome. I'm glad I could help. Your principal's right. I was on Jeopardy. Now I'm a writer. You know, so my new job is I write children's books. But 10 years ago, I was on Jeopardy. 10 years is a long time though. I mean, where were you guys 10 years ago? How old are you in the front row? So were you guys watching Jeopardy 10 years ago? You guys probably never saw me on Jeopardy because you weren't born yet. You guys watch videos of it? It was a lot of fun. Raise your hand if you watch Jeopardy. Oh, you guys like Jeopardy? My son watches Jeopardy now. My son's 11, and he watches Jeopardy every night. Well, I said, guys, he watches Jeopardy every night. And I always say, turn that down. I love Jeopardy. It was my favorite show. Even before I paid for my house, it was my favorite show. But when I hear the music and when I hear Alex Trebek's voice, I get very nervous. You know why? It reminds me of being on the show. Jeopardy's very intense. So I get flashbacks and I'm like, turn that down. But when I'm in LA, he can watch Jeopardy all he wants. He's very happy when I go on the road. It's very intense. You know, when you watch Jeopardy at home, it doesn't seem that intense, right? It seems pretty chill. You know, there's this old Canadian guy, and he asks questions, and then there are three people, and they try to answer them. But really, when you're there, it's super, super hard. You know what? I should have asked before. How much time do I have? Like, when do the kids be back?
As much as you want.
No, let's not say that. When should the kids be back in class? 9:45. You guys don't get a vote, I'm sorry. You're elementary school kids, I'm sorry, you don't get a vote. You go where we put you. I'm very sorry. So, you know, Jeopardy's very intense. There's a lot of questions and answers and knowledge on that show, right? There's only about 20 minutes of gameplay every night on Jeopardy. And Alex Trebek, he asks 61 questions. So it's really fast. The questions just keep coming. It would be like if your teacher gave you a test and said, here, you have 20 minutes to do this whole test. There's 61 questions on it. Oh, and the two people next to you are going to try to stop you from taking the test. It's hard, right? Because on Jeopardy, you've got two enemies. The two people on Jeopardy with you, they're not your friends. They want to beat you. So Jeopardy's like a battle every night. And I remember when I was on the show, it got even harder because you don't get to rest after you win on Jeopardy. They do 5 shows every afternoon. A whole week's worth of Jeopardy, they cram into one day. So as soon as one game ends, Alex, you know, he heads off. Is that too loud? Alex heads off stage. He changes his clothes, puts on a new suit and tie. Whoever won, you have to bring a change of clothes just in case. So you change your clothes. You come right back out, and 5 minutes later, you know, Alex comes out and he says, "On yesterday's show," but it's a lie. It wasn't yesterday. It was 5 minutes ago. They do a whole week in one afternoon. So if you're going to win all day, which I really recommend, by the way. Does anybody here want to go on Jeopardy? Raise your hand. Raise your hand afternoon. So it really is like a marathon, you know. By the end of the day, your head hurts, you know, with all the thinking you've been doing. Your feet hurts, you've been standing at the podium. Your thumb even hurts. Your thumb's very important on Jeopardy. Do you guys know that? There's a lot of thumb. So, you know, in school, when you know the answer, do you just yell it out? No, what do you do? On Jeopardy, if you know the answer, do you just yell it out at Alex? What do? You press a button. Yeah, everybody's got a little button. And the button's super tricky. You guys want to know the secret of the Jeopardy button? Okay, this is going to win you guys millions someday. Jeff, you can't buzz as soon as you know the answer. You can't just press it as soon as you know. You got to wait for Alex to finish reading the question. And then, only when he's done, there's some guy somewhere who flips a switch. And that turns on your buzzer. And then you can buzz. If you buzz too early, like before it's turned on, you actually get like locked out for a fraction of a second. You can't buzz in. So, you know, if you're too early, you get locked out. And that's why if you ever watch the show and you see some guy just freaking out. You ever see that? That's somebody who's getting very frustrated because they're buzzing too early, so it's not working. But of course, if you buzz too late, that's bad too. What happens if you buzz too late? Yeah, someone's going to get before you. So there's this very narrow moment between too early and too. It's like swinging at a baseball or something. There's the exact second that's right, and it's hard to find. So you know, Jeopardy is a very exhausting day, and if you're going to be on 74 times, which again I really recommend, it's even harder because the shows tape months before they air. Like if you watched Jeopardy last night, that was actually a show they made back in December or something. Jeopardy's like a time machine. You're seeing something that happened months ago. I took my kids to a taping a couple months ago so they could sit in the audience. This is like in October, it's like before Halloween, and Trebek comes out and he's like, "Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy today because I just finished all my Christmas shopping." And everyone's like, "What are you talking about, Trebek? It's October, you're losing it. You got too old. It shouldn't be Christmas shopping, it's not even Halloween yet." And then I realized, oh, right, they're making this show in October, but it's not going to be on TV until December. Like, people are going to watch this the week before Christmas, and they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, Christmas shopping." So that becomes a very tricky thing if you're on the show for months. I was on Jeopardy for 6 months. And that's hard because I would have to fly down from my house to LA. I would stay for 2 days. I'd stay for 2 days. I played Jeopardy for 2 days. So how many games of Jeopardy is that if you play for 2 days? 10, that's right, because they do 5 in a day. So I'd win 10 shows and this sort of crazy amount of money. And then I'd have to fly back home and I couldn't tell anybody where I'd been or what I'd been doing. Because it wasn't going to be on TV for months. And they make you sign a piece of paper saying you won't tell anybody, if you won or lost, because they don't want to ruin the surprise. So if you're only on once, that's a little secret. But if you're on 75 times, that's a pretty big secret. And it got very confusing. I remember my boss knew. She was like pretty much the only one who knew, so she could cover for me at work. I didn't want to get fired. And my wife knew because she'd been in the audience. But nobody else knew. Like my mom and dad didn't know, my friends didn't know, my coworkers didn't know. I had this totally exciting secret double life that I couldn't tell them about. Like if my mom and dad called me, I'd have to pretend to be at work, even if I was like driving on the 405 to Jeopardy. I remember I was on the show 75 times and I did not have 75 different outfits. So I was trying to figure out a way to borrow 75 ties from all my friends without telling them why I needed 75 neckties. It's a very unusual request. So it was very confusing. It was a hard summer. You realize why Spider-Man is so messed up. It's hard to have a secret identity. It's confusing. But even I had it was the most fun I've ever had. I've always been a huge fan of Jeopardy. It was always my favorite show because I've always liked to know stuff. On Jeopardy, knowing stuff equals success, and I've always believed that's true in Jeopardy. This is me when I was 3 years old when I need a haircut. But you can tell one of my favorite things to do is, even as a little kid, I love to read, that's right, I love books. I read everything. My mom was a librarian, and she read to me when I was little, and then I go to librarians, and then I read to myself when I was bigger. I loved to read. My favorite kinds of books were books that were full of crazy facts. I had a whole shelf by my bed full of like Ripley's Believe It or Not, and weird facts about dinosaurs or presidents or whatever. And I love this stuff. My favorite was the Guinness Book of World Records. You guys ever read that book? So I would always be telling my mom and dad stuff I'd read in the Guinness Book of World Records. They were nice and they pretended to be interested. Like the world's biggest pumpkin pie, it was as big as a baseball diamond or something, you know, or you know, the lady with the 30-foot fingernails, you know her? Have you seen that picture? There's some lady with these gross curly fingernails. And I loved all this kind of stuff. The weirder, the better, you know? And, you know, as I got older, I realized that the stuff you learn, you actually use sometimes. Like this is a game that came out when I was 10 years old. It was super popular. Does anybody know what this game is called? It's not Monopoly. Oh, I think some of the teachers remember. Trivial Pursuit, that's right. You guys would not believe how popular this game was in 1984. Everybody had a copy of this. And I would play against my parents, and sometimes I'd get a question right, and it would feel great. First of all, it would feel great because something I learned in my head was actually getting used in real life, and that's an amazing feeling. And secondly, because you get to beat mom and dad. You get to feel smart if you know something mom and dad don't know, right? When I was 5 years old, this is me on the first day of school. I'm going to kindergarten, I'm very happy. You can see my little brother is not happy because he's too little to go, and because he's got something up his nose. He doesn't get to go to school. But I look happy in the picture, but I actually remember that first day of kindergarten, I remember being a little bit sad. You know why? I was going to miss my favorite morning thing, which was game shows. I love watching game shows every morning. Your principal, you know, she was on some of my favorite shows, like Joker's Wild, Concentration. These were like my favorite shows. And I love watching these shows because they had smart people, you know, doing well at a game, and they would win fabulous prizes, right? Like trips and furniture and you know, jet skis and stuff. And I thought, wow, that's great. That's the life. When I was 7 years old, me and my whole family moved to Korea. We moved all the way across the ocean to Korea, and I actually lived in Korea for over 10 years. And so it was me and my brother and my sister. Korea was great. I love Korea so much to this day. But there was one nice way to represent. There was one tricky thing about living there. We only had one TV channel we could watch. Can you guys imagine a world where there's only one TV channel? How many channels do you guys have? Like 100? A million? So you guys come home from school, and you can choose what you watch, right? You can be like, I'm going to watch SpongeBob, or I'm going to watch Phineas and Ferb, right? But we had no choice. There were a few other channels in Korea, but I couldn't watch them. Do you know why? Can you guess? They were in Korean. That's right, I didn't speak any Korean. So there was one English language TV channel, because there was an American Army base there. So I had to watch whatever the Army TV had on. And there was no choice. Me and all my friends watched the exact same shows at the exact same time every day. And when we came home from school every afternoon, this is what the Army put on TV. Jeopardy! Me and all my friends had to watch Jeopardy. There's literally nothing else on. So this is what Jeopardy used to look like, very old-timey. This is what TVs used to look like, if you can believe it. That's not a microwave. TVs actually, it looks like a radio with a screen, that's what it was. So if you wanted to change the channel, you'd actually have to get up, walk over to the TV, and like turn this thing. And then you'd have to go walk back. It was the worst. It was so hard. You guys are so lucky. You don't know how hard we had it. But I would watch Jeopardy every day, and I just loved it. It was the same thing. It was watching smart people do something they were really good at. And I just thought, these guys are geniuses. You know, how do these three people know all this stuff every day? I just thought they were the smartest people I'd ever seen. And I wanted to figure out, what's the secret to it? How do you get to be that kind of Jeopardy genius? I thought, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And I've thought about it for a long time. You know, I've met a lot of other Jeopardy players. I was on Jeopardy 75 times. And you play against 2 people every time. So how many Jeopardy contestants did I play against? Can anybody do the math? What is it? 150. Nice work there, bud. That was fast. So I've met 150 different Jeopardy contestants. And do you think they like me? No, they don't like me at all. I feel bad for them. They all wanted to be on Jeopardy too, and I sort of ruined it. But you know what? They all have something in common. You know, I've sort of seen what it takes to be a Jeopardy genius. And guess what? It's not having some kind of mutant super brain. You know, you don't have to be Professor X from the X-Men movies to be on Jeopardy. You know, there are people with amazing brains, though. I just want to introduce you to this guy. This guy's name is Kim Peek. He has a very unusual brain condition called savantism, which makes it made it harder for him to do a lot of things with his brain that you and I can do very easily. But he also had these amazing mental abilities. Like I've read that he could hold one book in his left hand like this. He could hold one book in his right hand like this, and he could read this book with his right eye, And he could read this book with his left eye at the same time. So he'd be like, he could even turn one book upside down. He could still keep reading them both at the same time. It's true. If you told him what your birthday was, like if you said, I was born on March 21st, 2005, he would be like, oh yeah, that was a Monday. And he would tell you every newspaper headline that happened on that day. He literally knew everything that happened on every day of his life. He would read the phone book for fun, and he would just add up all the phone numbers in his head, like a calculator. His name was Kim Peek, and his friends called him the Kim-puter, because he had such an amazing brain. So that is a real thing. There are people with these rare brain conditions. But that's not what you see on Jeopardy. On Jeopardy, people have a different secret. On Jeopardy, the secret is they're really curious about everything. It's simple. They just like learning about everything, not just their favorite thing, you know. It's not like they like history but they hate sports, or they like music but they hate science. The people on Jeopardy, they're omnivorous. You know, they eat everything as far as information goes. They love knowing about everything. And you know, I found out, you know, I'm a dad now. These are my kids. My son's 11, my daughter's 7. This is a very rare picture of them because they're not fighting. You guys have little brothers and sisters? Yeah. You know how it is. You know how it is. But these are my kids. And even though they're not fighting. If you got a question, hold it till the end, buddy. Okay, I'll take questions at the end, so remember. You know, my kids, I watch my kids now and I realize something. You guys, kids, have the most amazing brains. You guys can do things with your brains that grown-ups can't do. Did you know that? Yeah. Like if you wanted to learn a new language, you could learn a new language so much faster than a grown-up. You know, if you and I tried to learn German at the same time, you would be speaking pretty good German in a few months, and I would still be like, good morning, good afternoon, where is the bathroom? Like kids are so much better at learning new stuff. It's the same with like playing an instrument. You could learn to play the piano so much faster than that. You could pick up new skills like how to use a new computer or video game or something. You learn stuff so much faster than a grown-up does. And I was writing books for grown-ups. After Jeopardy, I became a writer, which is what I always wanted to be when I grew up. Anybody here like to write? Because I had like notebooks full of stories I would write. I always wanted to be a writer. And after Jeopardy, I got the chance. I started writing books for grown-ups. And I started to realize, I wrote a book about maps and geography, because I love maps. Do you guys, anybody here like maps? So I wrote a book for grown-ups about maps, and people would be like, why are you writing about maps? That's boring. I found out a lot of grown-ups don't like maps. They only use them when they're lost. So, you know, they look at a map and they get nervous because it reminds them of being lost somewhere. They don't have fun with maps the way kids do. And I realized it's probably too late for a grown-up. If a grown-up reading my book, it's too late to convince them that geography is fun. But with a kid, you know, if I write a book about Greek mythology or about geography or about presidents or whatever it is, you know, a kid will read that book and be like, oh yeah, you know, and that might change the rest of your life. You know, even as a grown-up, you might think, oh yeah, presidents. I used to love that stuff when I was in 4th grade or whatever, you know. And so I started writing these junior genius guides. These are the first two. The first two are already out, mythology and geography. There's going to be more. There's going to be presidents and space and human body and a bunch of others. And the idea behind these books is that learning stuff really is fun if you're learning about it in a fun way. And it doesn't matter what it is. Even if presidents are not your favorite thing now, the book is, you know, the book is fun enough and I'm so cool and funny that you're really going to like it. In the books, I'm sort of like a teacher. You know, I walk you through a school day of learning about maps. But it's a fun school day. You know, there's a recess chapter with some game ideas. And there's an art class with a craft activity. And there's like a lunch period with a snack recipe you can make. For the geography one, it's map appetizers. You can make a tortilla that looks like the earth. So it's like a school day, but it's a fun school day. I'm a teacher, but I'm not like one of your regular teachers that's actually good at teaching stuff. You know, teachers have hold your question until the end. Teachers have something called a curriculum. Do you know what that means? They've got stuff they have to teach you, whether it's fun or not. You're going to learn long division, and it might not be fun, but it's really important, so we're going to do it. I want it to be more like a goofy substitute teacher who just shows up, has no idea what's going on, you know, no lesson plan. You ever have a substitute teacher? You know, sometimes they're a little bit confused. I would just show up. I'd be the kind of teacher who would just show up and be like, you know what? I'm really interested in sharks. Let's learn about sharks today. You know, or I just saw this movie about space. Let's watch a movie about astronauts. Just whatever I thought was interesting. That's what we do. You know, in a real geography class, your teacher might teach you, the names of all 50 states or something. I remember when I was a kid, we had to learn all the 50 states. But in this book, we actually learned the names of the weirdest towns in all 50 states. You know, like Monkey's Eyebrow, Kentucky, or Accident, Maryland, Ding Dong, Texas. Boogertown, North Carolina. How about New Jersey? Buttsville. Anybody here from Buttsville? The idea is that even if a map seems boring, there's actually all kinds of weird stuff about it. You know what this is? Yeah, so in the geography book, I wanted to do a chapter about famous landmarks of the world. So I started to write about old-timey statues. And I had a problem. Here's my problem. Deep down, I sort of thought old-timey statues were pretty boring. You guys with me? Do you think old-timey statues might be sort of boring? So I thought, you know what, I gotta make this interesting, you know? Kids deserve better. I'm gonna hit the library and I'm gonna try to find out interesting stuff about these statues. So, this is a pretty famous one. If you know what this is, yell it out. What's this statue? The Sphinx! That's right. This is an Egypt, the Great Sphinx. It's a mythical creature. It's like half woman and half lion. And today it's sort of brown and boring and the nose has fallen off, but here's the secret of the Sphinx that I didn't know. Archaeologists, you guys know what archaeologists are? People that study old things. They found traces of brightly colored paint on it. They found little dust, little bits of blue paint and red paint and yellow paint. And so we now know that when they made the Sphinx, it was all like in super bright colors, like the comic book characters. They had a big pointy beard and this giant cobra headdress. So it looked like a crazy comic book supervillain or something, and it was in these bright Disneyland colors. It's hard to picture now, but the Sphinx used to look awesome. Who knows what this sculpture is? Has anybody been there? Raise your hand if you've been there. So I've been there once, and I took a tour even, and the rangers never told me the secret. You guys want to know the secret of Mount Rushmore? The guy who sculpted it actually thought there should be a secret room inside Mount Rushmore. He wanted there to be a hall of records behind the president's head where they could put important documents and stuff. And so they did. They dug this out. Behind the president's head, there's this hidden vault called the Hall of Records. And they put important stuff there, but nobody's allowed to go there. It's like a time capsule. You know what that is, where you put something in the ground and you say, we're not going to dig it up for 1,000 years or whatever. So they lined this thing with titanium, this really strong metal. They put this giant granite boulder on top. So you can't go there, but there's a secret room sealed inside Mount Rushmore. That's awesome to me. You know, what's going on in there? It's a mystery. This is where it is. Easter Island. I heard a few people say it. Quiet down, you guys. This is Easter Island. They've got these giant heads made out of volcanic rock. But here's the secret. All these heads actually have bodies as well. Some of them even have legs. You guys know that? I thought they were just heads. So yeah, they're buried under the ground, so you can't actually see it, but they've all got bodies, and some of them even have legs. We think of them as heads, but they're actually whole bodies. This is one of the most famous statues in Denmark. This is, can you tell who that is? Yeah, it's a mermaid. Look, she doesn't have legs, she's got fins. That's a little mermaid. This is in Copenhagen, Denmark. The guy who wrote about the Little Mermaid was a famous Danish fairy tale writer. Does anybody know who it is? Who created the Little Mermaid? Raise your hand. From Denmark. Do you know? No, you just want to raise your hand? Who is it? Not Walt Disney, before Walt Disney. Hans Christian Andersen. He created the Little Mermaid. And he also wrote the story that Frozen is based on. Wow! So the Little Mermaid is one of his most famous stories. So in his hometown, they put up this statue. But guess what? The Little Mermaid statues had a really tough life. Back in the 60s, some kids climbed out onto her rock in the middle of the night, and they cut off her head with a saw. And they stole it. I think they held it for ransom, like, you know, give us money or you'll never see Ariel's head again. In the 80s, somebody went out there and they just cut off her arm. Just some crazy guy just cut off her right arm, took it out. And, you know, they replaced all this stuff, but in the 90s, somebody stole the replacement head again. Same thing. Just went out there with the sun, saw her. So she keeps getting cut up. She's had a really tough life. I think she should have stayed under the sea, right? With Sebastian and Thomas. Raise your hand if you've been to the Statue of Liberty. Oh, a few of you have. I was there last week. Quiet down, you guys. I was there a couple weekends ago, and The pedestal has a museum inside it. They've actually reopened this. You can climb up inside it. There's a stairway that goes all the way up to the crown. These are windows. You can look out. And there's even a little stairway that goes all the way up her arm, and the torch is a balcony. So you can like stand out on the torch. Does that scare you? That would scare me. That's closed. I don't know why. Maybe they're just not safe. But you can still go all the way to the crown. But anyway, inside the pedestal, quiet down, you guys. Settle down. Thank you. Inside the pedestal is a museum. And I went to this whole museum, I looked at everything, and they didn't have the secret that's in the Junior Genius book. I'll tell you the secret of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was a birthday present to America. America turned 100 years old, and some country sent, you know what country sent us the statue? France. Very good, you guys knew it. So France says, we're going to give you a big statue. And America says, okay. So the deal was this, France was going to send us a statue, and America was supposed to build the pedestal. That's the thing the statue stands on. But the statue arrives from France in a boat. So we've got a boat full of statues. I'll take pictures at the end, buddy, okay? The statue arrives from France in a boat, and in classic American fashion, we have not built the pedestal yet. So we've got this boat full of statues, we've got no place to put it, which is very awkward. So this medicine company volunteers, they say, hey, we'll build the pedestal for you for free. And America says, really, what's the catch? And the medicine company says, well, we're going to put big advertisements on the statue for our products. It'll be like a billboard. And America says, well, what do you make? And they say, well, we're the Castoria Laxative Company. You guys know what laxatives are? That's medicine you take when you're constipated. It helps you go to the bathroom. So does that sound like a good idea? On the Statue of Liberty, what if we have a big ad for pills that help you poop? Is that a good idea? No? This is a true story. This actually happened. Luckily, so spoiler warning, as you can see, there's no poop ads on the statue, right? So you can tell that America said, no thank you, we'll figure something else out. And instead what they did a big campaign in the newspaper where if you send in money to donate for the pedestal, you put your name in the paper. So kids would send in, nickel from their allowance, and they'd see their name in the paper, and tens of thousands of people donated, and the pedestal got built without any ads for poop. Luckily for America. So I was very excited. I got done with this chapter and I realized, hey, I totally thought old-timey statues were going to be boring. And instead it turned out there was lots of cool secrets that I didn't know. And that's sort of the idea behind all the Junior Genius books, that everything is interesting if you look at it the right way, You should like every subject. You should like learning about everything. The Junior Genius slogan is, it's much better to know something about everything than everything about something. That's sort of tricky, but here's what it means. That means it's better to know at least a little bit about a lot of things, At least a little bit about every subject. And not just have one favorite subject that you're an expert on and then everything else you think is done, It's great. Maybe you have a favorite, basketball team, or, maybe you like, what are you guys into? Maybe you like Justin Bieber. You like Justin Bieber? No, it's okay to have a favorite thing. But it's even better to be curious about everything. And sometimes grown-ups aren't curious about everything, I gotta say. You kids, I can tell, are excited. Raise your hand if you like learning new stuff. You guys like learning new stuff? So not all grown-ups do. Look, here's a very sad chart. You guys know how to read a bar graph? Awesome. See, you guys know your stuff. This is a National Geographic survey showing how many college-age people, these are grown-ups, can't find places on a map. Look, take the Pacific Ocean. That's a big ocean, right? That's like the biggest ocean. It's like half the world. And yet you show a world map to college kids, guess what? 20% point to the wrong ocean. They can't find the Pacific Ocean. The United Kingdom. You guys know what that is? It's like Britain, Great Britain, England and Scotland and Wales. So that's a pretty easy country to find. That's an important one. 35% can't find it on a map.